It was a revolutionary time in the United States. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 defining moments in 1960s America.
Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right.
For this list, we've chosen moments that we felt best represent this essential decade in American history, and that influenced what came next. Whether it's the evolution of rock music, to increased free speech, greater civil rights, to a more cautious foreign policy, the 60s shaped it all. Number 10, the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. While social change preoccupied Americans, war raged in Vietnam. The communist North had South Vietnam on the ropes, and America had little desire to see communism spread. In 1964, a U.S. destroyer was engaged in battle by North Vietnamese naval units.
In a deliberate and unprovoked action, 3 North Vietnam PT boats unleash a torpedo attack against the Maddox.
Though the accuracy of these reports was questioned, the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution soon passed, allowing American soldiers to participate in the war. Controversy spread over the necessity of American participation, dividing the country.
What would you do?
Number 9, Woodstock.
Attitude. Will you stand up and walk out on me?
Neglected by a majority that didn't understand them, the counterculture took solace for 3 days in the fields of upstate New York. 1969's Woodstock Festival combined the liberal ideals of communal living, free love, and open drug use with the innovative rock and soul music of the time. For one weekend, this sect lived happily in peace, free from government interference or ridicule. Number 8, the assassinations of civil rights leaders. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. shared little in common. King was a steadfast devotee of peaceful integration, Malcolm a fiery supporter of black supremacy. Unfortunately, each man was coldly killed at peak popularity.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
Losing such established leaders left the civil rights movement in dire straits, led by fractured and unorganized groups. It took years to regain the prominence of the early decade. Number 7, the Cuban Missile Crisis. With tensions high in the midst of the Cold War, the United States learned of Soviet missiles in Cuba. Something had to be done, so President Kennedy ordered a blockade of the Caribbean nation.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated.
For 13 days, nuclear warfare seemed all too possible, and Americans lived in fear. Fortunately, an agreement was struck for each country to deactivate some of its missiles, and the Cold War's most dangerous crisis was averted.
Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom.
Number 6, the 1968 Democratic National Convention.
How this got started, we don't know.
Tensions came to a head in the summer of '68 at the Democratic National Convention. Anti-war protesters rushed to Chicago, only to be greeted by the clubs and mace of aggressive police officers.
Mr. Chairman, Colorado rises to a point of information. Is there any rule under which Mayor Daley can be compelled to suspend the police state terror perpetrated this minute on kids in front of the Conrad Hilton?
News stations were quick to capture the footage, transmitting it across the evening news. Young liberals and the counterculture were disgusted, while the older generation found the violence justified. A generation gulf remained.
Chicago just happened to be the city. It would have been impossible to hold it anywhere, because the Democratic Party has blood on its hands.
Number 5. The FDA approves the birth control pill. First introduced in 1960, the birth control pill kick-started a sexual revolution that swept the nation. Unburdened by the threat of unplanned pregnancies, women were free to pursue higher education and careers, while both sexes experimented with sex and drugs. This gave birth to a counterculture that tested social mores and the limits of American democracy throughout the decade. But this period of peace and love was temporary. Number 4. Apollo 11 lands on the moon. Long before the heartache of the late decade, the U.S. engaged in a frantic space race with the Soviet Union. In 1961, President Kennedy boldly declared that America would put a man on the moon before decade's end.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
America delivered by sending Apollo 11 in July 1969, taking a decisive lead in the race. The footage of the landing became legendary, and the country's future looked brighter.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Number 3, the Tet Offensive. As 1968 began, the Vietnam War seemed a certain success for America. But this illusion was quickly destroyed.
The enemy very deceitfully has taken advantage of the Tet truce.
During a holiday ceasefire, Viet Cong soldiers shockingly attacked the South Vietnamese capital, Saigon. Though the invasion was fought off, the harsh truth was obvious. This was no simple war. Troop morale fell, and Americans became disgusted with the war. President Johnson chose not to run for re-election, and the future seemed uncertain.
I do not believe that I should devote an hour or a day of my time to any personal partisan causes or to any duties other than the awesome duties of this office.
Number 2, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Throughout the late 50s and early 60s, the civil rights movement grew through nonviolent protest and civil disobedience, with events like the March on Washington taking center stage. Long denied their equal rights, African Americans were finally rewarded through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Eliminating segregation and biased voting requirements, the act set off a landslide of change that slowly produced equality for minorities.
Its purpose is not to punish. Its purpose is not to divide, but to end divisions.
Number 1, JFKs Assassination. A young and charismatic leader, John F. Kennedy seemed the perfect president to lead America through the 60s.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
These hopes were shattered when he was shot down by a sniper's bullet in 1963.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Though Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the crime, he was murdered before going to trial, leading to endless conspiracy theories over the following decades. Regardless of the motive or perpetrator, President Kennedy's assassination shook the country and signaled the coming instability. Do you agree with our list? Which events do you think defined 1960s America and beyond? For more informative top 10s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you very much.